Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Rachel Klein and I will be your presenter for today. Today we're going to be talking about different type of reporting options in membership. So this is part 3 of this 3-part series that we've been doing for reporting. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to open up membership here. And you can get to reports in one of two ways. You can get to it right here in the middle, or you can go up under Reports and Export, Reports and Labels, and then Reports Directory Export. Whichever way you log in or whichever way you open reports, it's going to take you to the Step 1 screen. Remember, Step 1 is where you put in your criteria of who you want to see on your report. And then before Step 2, I want to point out the Sort tab here. Sort tab is where you put in the order that you want your people to be listed in. So for today's purposes, because we're going to be doing a bunch with directory, I'm going to go with alphabetical, okay? And then I'm going to hit next. All right, so on the Step 2 screen, we've already discussed basic and all information back in Part 2. Custom is an option you can utilize where you build the report you want using the report designer. We're actually going to talk about that in a webinar tomorrow. So if you want more information on building specific custom reports within our report designer, sign up for the event tomorrow. So we're not going to talk about that much today, but let's move on to directory. So I had 2 calls already today helping people build a directory. Directory, there are several specific things you need to keep in mind. When you choose this directory option, you are only going to be pulling in people that have their include on directory box checked. Okay, I'm going to open up people here and show you exactly what that means. On every record in your database, there is an include on directory checkbox within your individualized fields. So right here, this is Nina's. Right now, it is not checked. So when I choose that directory option on Step 2, because Nina's box is not checked include on directory, she will not be on my directory, okay? So whether you want someone in the directory or not is driven by this little checkbox, okay? Another really important field is this directory report order. This field should be filled in for every single person in your database, whether they show up in the directory or not. This tells the software who's who within the family. Okay, so if you have a family of one person like Miss Nina, she's obviously going to be the primary because she's the only one. Okay, now if we look through to the Bernard family quickly, there's 4 Bernards, and as you can see, Evan is the primary, Nikki is the secondary, Stuart and Eric are both 3 because they are child with family, okay? So every household needs a primary. The primary's spouse or partner then needs to be the number 2 for secondary. Any kids need to be 3, okay? 4, which is right here, it says secondary, primary separately. This would be used if you have a couple that have 2 different last names. Okay, this is important for the directory. So you have a Smith and a Brown, and they've married, but they've kept their own names. You would give someone the primary, because you always have to have a primary, but then their spouse or partner, instead of giving them a secondary, you would give them a 4 for secondary, primary separately. What this will do for you is when you run the directory, this family is going to show up in the B's for Brown, and it's also going to show up down in the S's for Smith. That way the couple can be found if they don't know the proper last name. Okay? And then the last option here is 5, which is individual separately. This is really helpful if you have an adult child that you still want listed in the family, but they want to be listed as their own entity in the directory. This is also really helpful if you have like an elderly parent or something that moves back in with their kids' family. You can give that elderly person or that elderly parent the 5, and then that will still include them in this family, but it will print them separately in the directory itself. Okay? Let me know if you have questions on this. I don't see anybody popping in with questions, so hopefully that's clear, but let me know and we can talk about it more if need be. All right, so let's get back into reports here. Oops, I closed all the way out of membership. Didn't mean to do that. So once you get to step 2, you're going to choose directory. And once directory is selected, you have several options in here that start with the word template. Everyone that has Church Windows is going to have these templates listed here as an option. Okay? Popular ones. 2-column directory. This is an extremely popular directory template that people utilize. I'm going to go ahead and hit print so you can get an idea of what it looks like. This is going to show you their name. Last name will be first, then their first name of the primary person. Then their secondary person will be listed here. We're looking at the Knox family here. Their children, Nate and Judith, their address, and then their primary phone will be listed below. Okay. If we look over here at Jen Arnold's record, you can see Jen is the primary, Richard is her son, here is her address, apartment number, city, state, and then she has an alternate address. So she spends some time in Florida. So you can see the dates she's actually at her place in Florida. Okay. That is the template for our basic directory. We also have a 3-column directory as well. This looks exactly like that 2-column classic that I just showed you, or the basic version of the directory. But this again has 3 columns, save you some paper as well. Okay. Again, it's in alphabetical order because that's what we selected back on step 1. Let's look over here to the right. We have several different options that I want to point out for directory. On the Report Options tab, you can uppercase the last name. Pretty straightforward. You can include additional family members linked from other households. So this would be utilized if you have a family that goes to your church. Say mom and dad split up and you want the kids to be linked to both dad's family and mom's family. If you check this box, then those kids who are linked to both mom's and dad's family, they will show up in both places. Okay? If you're including birth date on the directory, you can check this box to include the year, or you can specify if you just want it for children. If you're doing a pictorial directory, which is an option here under templates, you can choose, let me find the most popular one, simple picture directory. You can specify for family pictures, use individual picture if not available. So what that means is in people, you have your family record on the left, you have your individual records on the right. If you come across a family that doesn't have a family photo, but they have an individual photo, if you check this box, then you're simply telling the database that you want to use that individual photo if they don't have a family one. Okay. I'm going to hit print here real quick so you can get an idea of what that simple picture directory looks like. So these pictures are actually from my church growing up, so they're a little dated, but you can see here, for example, Nina doesn't have a photo and neither does Jen, but here's Bill and Donna Bell, here's the Bernard family, here's Chris, okay? So if they have a picture, it will display. Right? If they don't have a family picture or an individual picture, then you won't see anything here, okay? You can omit the people who don't have pictures if you wish, back on step 1 with your criteria, okay? There's another photo directory layout. It's the horizontal picture directory. This is a pretty nice template as well. Just gives you a different layout. Instead of the more columnar approach, it's going to have the family information print from left to right, okay? And again, you can change the colors and customize it if you want in the report designer, which we'll talk about tomorrow. So come back for tomorrow's. So that's an overview of the template directories. All of these are customizable using this edit button here. Again, this takes you into our report designer, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. So if you find you want more information about customizing a layout, whether it's a pictorial directory or one of the columnar directories, come to tomorrow's event at 1, okay? All right, let's move on to mail merge export. I get a lot of these calls during the week. It's basically when you have your data in Church Windows and you want to export that data out. You want to pull it out to use it somewhere else, whether it's in Excel, whether you're wanting to do a mail merge of some sort, whether you're choosing to go with another company to create a directory for you. These two export options are the way you pull that data out of Church Windows. Okay, so let's start with mail merge export first. There aren't any templates for this. This is just some random name somebody made in here. But what you'll do once you choose mail merge export, you're going to hit the new button and you need to call it something. I'm going to just call this export of contact information. Okay. And remember, you don't necessarily need to put a date in here because you can always reuse this layout in the future. So once you have it set up for the fields you need to export, you can come in once a month and use the same export again. Okay, so here's that column selector again. Whatever you have on the right, these are the fields that will be exported. Whatever you have on the left, these are the fields available for you to choose from. So if I were to just say okay and export this report as is, all it would give me would be someone's last name and their preferred name. But let's say I want some more information than that. If you look over here on the left, I can expand this current address as of today section, and I can move over all of these fields that I want to export for this particular persons or for these people that meet my criteria. So I'm going to do address 1, address 2, city, state, zip code. Let's say I need some contact information here as well. So I'm going to do cell phone and email address. Now when you move a field, you can highlight it, hit the right facing arrow to move it over to be included, or highlight it and hit the left facing arrow to take it off. Or you can double click the field and that will move it back and forth. Okay. Then if we continue scrolling down, you have some other options down here as well. Lots and lots of stuff here that you can export depending on what you need to see. Okay. And I always tell people too, when exporting, add more than you think that you're going to need, because if you use it, say in Excel or something like that, you can always go in and just dump the columns if you find you don't need them. Okay. All right. So these are the fields that I want to see. I'm going to say okay. And then I'm going to come over here to my export options. In here, I need to decide where I want this export to save. I'm just going to choose my desktop for now. And then you can decide what delimiter you want. If you use tab, it's going to be a text file, .txt. If you go with comma, it's going to be a comma delimited file that is a CSV, okay, comma separated value. If you're going to be putting this data into Excel, I recommend going with comma, okay, a comma delimiter. That opens up real nice in Excel. I'm going to hit export here, and it is going to take those people that meet my criteria on step 1, use my mail merge export that I've created here on step 2, ask me if I'd like to open the folder. I'll say yes. And let's see, where did that go? Export of contact information right here. Now this is just a training machine, so we don't actually have Excel on here. So Notepad is trying to open the file for me. So you can see here's my commas for my comma delimiter. If I would have opened this in Excel, everywhere you see a comma, it would have put it into its own column. Okay. So that is the mail merge export. If we jump down here to directory export, it is set up exactly the same as a mail merge export, but it's going to be pulling people a little differently. When you choose directory export, again, it's only going to look at those people who have that include on directory field checked, okay? But the other nice thing about the directory export is it's going to group your people together by family. Okay, so if you're sending data out to LifeTouch, or if you're sending data out to some company that's going to create a directory for you, or that you need it for pictures, whatever it might be, Directory export is going to be your best option for that because it will take all the individuals that make up a family and it's going to put them all on the same row or the same line. Okay, so I'm going to hit new here and I'm going to call this export for LifeTouch. Let's say we're going to use them for pictures and they need some information. So I'm going to say okay. Remember, over here on the right, this is what's going to be exported for my people. Over here on the left is what I can choose from. So right now I have last name, preferred name, children's names, address 1 and 2, city, state, zip, and their family phone. Alternate address is in here by default. I don't really need these, so I'm going to double click these to take them off of my report. And I don't really care about alt phone or work phone or phone. Let's say I just want to go with this, but I want email address too. Okay. Now, if you look, as soon as I move email address over here, I can specify for which individuals in the family I want the email address pulled for. I can say I want it for everybody. I can tell that if the selected or the primary person and their secondary person have the same, then I want it combined. I can come down here and say I only want it for selected and spouse partner. So this would be only for the adults, the primary and the secondary person. Or I can say just for kids. Say if I'm pulling age, I only want the kid's age. Okay. I'm going to leave that as is and I'm going to say okay. Again, I need to choose where I want this export to go. I'm going to put it on my desktop again for easy finding. You can do a delimiter of tab or comma as well. I'm going to go with tab for this example and I'm going to hit export. Would you like to open the folder? We'll say yes. And here's my export for LifeTouch. Now you can see it's a text file. I'm going to open that up. And now, I know it's hard to see. I wish I had Excel to show you, but here are my column headers across the top. And then here are the people that are meeting my criteria. So if we look at this row here for the Bernards, we have the last name, primary first name, secondary first name, and then we have the child 1, child 2. Okay, and then we have another column here that combines them. So you can decide which column the company that you're sending this to would like better. And then here's all the address information and the email. Okay, so remember, mail merge export is going to export each person out as its own entity. Directory export is going to look at those people who are set to be included on the directory, and it's going to automatically combine all the family information together on one row. Okay. One more thing I want to talk about. It looks like we're right at 12:49. Back here on directory, you do have some other options, okay? Grouping and page break. This is really important. This allows you, let's go back to this 2 column. So like I said, my church growing up used church windows, and when they would print our pictorial directory from this database, they would use these grouping and page break options. They've been in church windows for as long as I'm aware. But you can do this alphabetical page break, which is really nice, and then you can also choose to include this alphabetic heading. So if I say print here, you can see that it's going to give you a page break based on the start of the first letter of their last name. So the one we had at my church, it was in a binder, and then we had the letters of the alphabet all along the left side, and then you could easily like jump down to the D's, flip the D tab, and it gave you all of the D last names. So that's a really nice feature. My church was really big growing up, so it was really handy to be able to use those tabs to jump by the alphabet. So that's how you would use that grouping and page break options. There's some unlisted options as well. So when you put in people's phone number, email, and addresses, there is a checkbox if you want it to be unlisted or not. If you check that unlisted box, by default, they're going to be left off. But you can specify that you do want their information to print for those unlisted people, and then you can specify if you want an asterisk to print next to them as well, so you know those are the unlisted ones. Okay, but keep in mind as you choose different options here, the tabs to the right are going to change based on what you've selected for your reporting layout. Okay.